There it is. Here we go. All right. We're rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the S'mores and Stripes podcast. We've got some new technology that slows things down just a little bit, but we're rolling like we usually do. So welcome to the S'mores and Stripes podcast. Today is a special day. We have a very special guest with us. Typically, we bring to life the story of the national heroes, the 250 national heroes outlined in the National Garden of American Heroes through the voice of their descendants. But today we have a great American hero that is not on the list, but it's definitely an honorable mention. We're going to be introducing my friend Chuck Steele. These guys are from Southeast Michigan, and they're part of the American Legion. Today we'll be discussing the identity of our precious flag, and somebody who's spent the dedicated the past 60 years in preserving the meaning of our precious flag. I think for my visual audience, I think our voice and sound is a little behind. So I'm going to see what I can do to kind of play with that as we go. But bear with us. You've seen worse. Okay? Like, you know us. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my friend, my new friend, Chuck Steele. Chuck, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Chuck, thank you for being with us. The visual is going to catch up here in a second. Are you going to catch up here in a second? Come on, I push the button. There it is. Okay, there it goes. There it is. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, let's start. Let's start at the beginning. What do you remember about growing up in Southeast Michigan before entering into the service?
Well, the town has changed quite a bit since we our family moved out here in 1930. I was born on April 30th, 1930, and that was right into the Depression. And my folks lost everything. I was born in Lincoln Park, and my mother's brother-in-law had bought this place out south of Manchester, and he told my family to go out there and live. So that's how we got out to Manchester. And we, I've lived here ever since. That was in May of 1930. And I remember that when you'd see horses and buggies come into town in Manchester, and at the mill, which is right in the middle of town, uh, the farmers would bring in their wagons loaded with grain and have it round up for feed and for flour. And that, but the rest of Main Street, it's just one, well, I can't say identical because there has been changes made to the buildings there.
Manchester is a special place. So we've loved. I love growing up there. We moved there when I was in my later teens, and
Well,
from the pharmacy to the bakery to the pizza shop, both pizza shops, they've all changed over time. But it's a place frozen in time for sure, and it has a very special identity associated to it. So. Chuck, if I'm not
yep.
mistaken,
I've
you
been
joined.
here 95 years.
You said you've been here for 95 years. Is that right?
Yes,
That's amazing.
yes, I have. The only 2 years I wasn't here was the 2 years I was in service.
Oh my goodness. Uh, well, that leads us right into that. What led you to join the service?
I was drafted. I enjoyed the Naval Reserve when I was in high school, and I was in that for 3 years. It was like a 3-year enlistment, and I took a cruise uh, on the USS Portsmouth. It was a cruiser, but my service in the Army, I was drafted in 1951. Still here?
I am still here. There it is. Mike just picked up. Thank you there. So in 1951, you were drafted into the service, and I understand. What did you do in the service? We were reading an article, and it said that you had spent more time on a train than a bunker or a barrack. Can you tell us a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, well, that was in the first part of March. It was the March 7th or 8th that we were drafted, and we went to Ann Arbor to the Armory, and that's where they got us all together from this area and put us on a bus and sent us down to Fort Wayne in Detroit. And we were sworn in, put on another bus, and sent back out to Battle Creek. And we was this was on like on a Monday or Tuesday, and we stayed there till the following Monday. That weekend, our parents, and if you had a girlfriend or a wife, they could come up and see you, and which happened. And then they put us on a troop train on Monday, and we went to Augusta, Georgia, and we were quarantined for 2 weeks, and then they started us on our basic training, and we got into about the third or the fourth week of it, and they came down, said they didn't have room enough there for us anymore, and they were going to ship us out. We didn't know where we were going, but they put us on another troop train, and off we took, and we was gone for like a week, and we wound up out in California, Camp Cook, California, which had been closed since the end of World War II.
Well, yeah,
Huh?
no, go ahead.
And that's where we finished our basic training. And I always said I had the longest basic training that ever existed. Started in Augusta, Georgia, or Camp in Georgia, and wound up finishing in Camp Cook, California, which is near Santa Barbara.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's no longer an army base. It's part of the Air Force. It's an Air Force base.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Our basic trade. They said, "Well, we don't have room for you." Say again.
was just listening. So you were in Santa Barbara, and they moved around a lot, but you were in the longest basic training ever, uh, which sounds
Yeah, we got through room for you in school. We were in the Signal Corps, and so there the company there, they set up a training, and we learned how to use all of the equipment in the company, which was a radio relay company, 70-foot antenna on the highest hill or mountain around lines. They
okay.
would use these relay companies in between. Which was a disaster over in Korea, because the Koreans would see those 470-foot antennas, and they knew that's what they had to get out of the way, and they would blow them off those mountains or hills. And but we didn't we didn't get to go to school right away. It wasn't until, well, I got sent home on leave in September, and when we got back, he says, "Well, you're going to go to school again," and they put us on another troop train, and back across the United States we went to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. That's from coast to coast. And that was probably one of the longest trips on a train that I ever had. The route they had us on, they had a train wreck on it, so they routed us up through Iowa and up through there. And some of the train had to travel so slow that if you wanted to get off and exercise, you could get off and walk and pee if you needed to. But anyhow, it was just a slow, anguishing trip. When we
Mm.
got there, and we were in school for 6 months. And when we got through the school, they says, "Well, you're going back to California." So clear back across the United States, we went to California, and then we were sent to San Luis Obispo, California, which is about halfway between Frisco and LA. And we all we did there, they came down and they says, "Well, you don't have enough time left and to serve to be sent to Korea." So we said, "Oh well, great! I'm not going to Korea." I couldn't think of anything better than that. And all we did is go out and practice, go up the mountains and set up our antennas. And we had 4 antennas to put up, and we had 2 receivers and 2 transmitters. And they every once in a while they'd come down and say our company was going to be shipped to Korea. So we all had to get our overseas shot. And we had to pack everything up, and up to Fort Ord we'd go. And we'd be up there for 2 or 3 weeks. They'd say, "Well, you're not going to Korea, so you're going to go back down to San Luis Obispo." So we'd go back down to San Luis Obispo.
Looks like we just lost Chuck, so just give me one quick second. Okay, guys, we're just about back. Our Zoom was decided to shut down on us, so we'll be getting Chuck back here in just a quick second. Hang tight.
We are back.
We're back. All right.
All right, I'll get out of the way.
We're back, Chuck. Let me answer. Stop the phone. Chuck, we're back. Can you hear us? Okay.
Okay. I think I was at the part where we had got out of school. We're back in San Luis Obispo, California,
Yes,
and
sir.
all we did was just go do training up in the hills. Like we'd go up into Hunter Liggett and go training up there. And one of the enjoyable parts of going up in those hills was there were a bunch of little burros up there, and they'd come in and they were just like pets really. They'd come in. We got to feed them a cube of sugar. Well, it got so that every morning they came in and brayed, and they wanted their sugar before they'd leave. But they were quite a pet. But anyhow, we did our training up in the hills, and we we would get set up to Fort Ord every once in a while. They'd say we were going to Korea, but we never did. And when we had 16 weeks left to go into service, the levy came down for 18 men from our company to go to Germany. Well, that shows you the Army's proficiency, I probably would say. Well, you only got 16 weeks to go. You got to get your shots all over again to make sure you got the right ones,
Mm-hmm.
and then they got a delayed route leave on their way over to uh, Fort Dix in New Jersey. And when they left from there, I have no idea, but uh, by the time they got over to Germany, they were probably down to 14 weeks. And then they had gotten assigned to a company over there, and you wouldn't hardly get really associated into a company. And but anyhow, that shows you the efficiency of the Army sending 18 men for 16 weeks. It was vacation. There was a lot of those guys that was in there. They didn't want to go, and they were selling their right on that levy to
Mm.
people. There was a guy wanted me to take his place, and I told him, "Sure, I'll go." But he decided, him and his wife talked it over, and they decided that that'd be the only chance he'd ever get to go to Germany. So he went, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't. But I stayed there in San Luis Obispo till back in March of '53.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I spent some time there. It's a great
Yeah,
place to just, if you're gonna have to station somewhere, it's a
yeah,
great place.
yeah. And if you gotta be in the army, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, exactly. You got Hearst Castle up there and everything. Like
Yeah.
all those wild animals and a beautiful beach. This is great.
Oh yeah. Not only that, I had a cousin who lived out there in California, and he owned a high-speed drill company,
Uh-huh.
and he made drills for the different uh, air manufacturing companies,
Okay.
all the way from California to Washington.
Okay.
So I got to go see him whenever I wanted.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Well, what year did you get back?
1953.
1953. Okay, so after that, sometime after that, you came back. Now, when you came home and joined the American Legion, you joined Post 117. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now,
Yep.
now the American Legion dates very far back, and part of its main core of its mission is to preserve the history and the meaning of our precious flag. Now, what made you commit so deeply and stay involved in the American Legion for 70 years?
Well, I just felt like it was part of my obligation. Well, my brother was a service officer of the American Legion, and when I got home uh, in March, that month they had a meeting, and he signed me up for the Legion, unbeknown to me. Uh, he came down and says, "Here's your American Legion membership card. You belong to the Legion now." So I got involved, and I was active. And the first year I really did. I got into the firing squad, and but from then on, every year I held a position in the Legion
Hmm.
until to, well, a year ago.
Ah. Now you've served as commander a couple of times, haven't you?
Yep, 5 times.
5 times. How
Yep.
how how do those roles, serving as I mean, a lot of people are the American Legion is an amazing organization. It's a brotherhood. It's not really a fraternity, but it's something that has deep heritage and roots for quite a long time. What serving in those capacities? How did those roles shape your connection to Manchester, to our country, and really to what it means to be an American?
Well, I hmm, you know, on the deal with the flags. One day, my wife and I were up north, and we seen some Legionnaires out, and they were putting flags up, and I stopped and talked to them, and I thought, boy, this is a good idea. We ought to do this in Manchester. So when I got back, I brought it up at a meeting, and the Legion had sponsored our bowling team, and they says, "Well, yeah, you can do that, but you're you're in charge of it. You got to take all of the responsibility." So we went to the village here, and we asked them about putting them up, because on one thing I noticed, that on any holiday where there'd be flags to be displayed, there maybe be only a half a dozen flags on Main Street, and that I thought, geez, we ought to be able to do better than that. So when we went to the village and proposed to them that we would put them up at least 12 times a year, well, that wound up being at least 15 and 16, because whatever they wanted them up, we'd put them up.
So
And
you went from Six Flags every couple of holidays to now you're putting up, if I'm not mistaken, 70 flags in a variety of holidays. Almost anything that they're looking for whenever they need it.
that's correct. Yep.
Well,
That's
well, Chuck, there's a reason. See, I played in the high school marching band in Manchester. I know, right? It's my
yeah.
claim to fame. But we can do is say thank you for what a wonderful legacy to leave to the people of Manchester, just your small town. That you go from 6 to 70, and it becomes something wonderful, simply because you thought it was a good idea. And you brought it up in your American Legion meeting, and they decided, okay, yeah, it's amazing how simple. I think a lot of Americans really are looking for grandiose opportunities, and when we look for those opportunities, we really miss that the real opportunities to leave long impact come from those small moments where we determine that courage and ingenuity can go further than prowess. And so an opportunity to just say, you know what, I think we're missing some flags, and I think we can do better. I think we can choose a little bit more excellence in our life, and organize ourselves just a little bit more. and it can leave a lasting legacy. So now you have 70 flags that go up on every patriotic holiday. How do you think that has?
Probably
Go ahead.
it's probably closer to 100.
Really?
Oh yeah, we go all the length of Main Street.
Yeah, yeah. So, Manchester, for those who don't know, Manchester is a small town in southeast Michigan, and it's a wonderful place. It's a little Mayberry. It's a Lake Wobegon. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite places. If you're gonna visit, there's two times to visit. One is the Manchester Chicken Broil, which happens in the summertime, and people come from all over the United States, all over the world, really, and they line up for specially made chicken broil. I remember making handmade coleslaw and watching the chickens flip, and they have these massive troughs of made with bricks that they run coal in, and then the chickens turn as they go, and they spray them with butter, and it's a blast. And then they have, of course, live music. And the music is usually polka music and country music. It's really a great time. But then the second time to go, and it's a well kept secret, but I'm gonna reveal it to our audience here, is right about the second week of October. Second week of October, the leaves change. The colors are at peak, really at peak color. Really about October 7th or 10th, right through about the 15th, right before the rain sets in, and then all the leaves fall down. It's just magical. It's just magical and wonderful right about those times. A lot of the other times it's pretty humid, but at the same time, those two spots it just makes it wonderful and amazing. And of course, Christmas time in southeast Michigan is usually a white and wet Christmas, but it's very Midwestern in that. So, go ahead, Chuck.
One of the things I'd like to relate to you was when I always, if there was a school come up on the board, I'd always sign up for it. And that was odd because I was not an astute student when I was in school there in Manchester. But anyway, one of the classes I had to take was a speaking class. And the colonel who was in charge of it, he says there's three things to remember when you're speaking: stand up and be seen, speak up and be heard, and shut up and sit down. And that was his philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed that because I spoke in Manchester probably 15, 20 different years on Memorial Day in Norval Township and in Manchester.
Well, but that's even the flag being presented at football games.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Well, the first year I was home, I went to a football game that fall, and the band came out and played the Star Spangled Banner, but there was no American flag around. And so I went back to the Legion meeting, and I told them, I says, they don't even have a flag down there. I says, why don't we take our colors down? And that was in the fall of '53, and uh, he says, well, if you can get anybody to do it, well, go ahead. So I didn't have any trouble getting four guys to take the flags and rifles down there. And that started in 1953. And this past year was the first year that I was not present at a flag raising
Really?
at a Manchester home football game. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Chuck, you will have lived through, and this was right in that same era, that "Under God" was added to our Pledge of Allegiance. What can you tell? The story goes like this: that in about 1948, Louis Albert Bowman spoke up in his Sons of the American Revolution meeting, very similar to the way that it operated in your American Legion. And he said, "Under God is not in our Pledge of Allegiance. Why don't we go ahead and add that?" He'd been doing that with his family, and it had just kind of caught on. The American Legion picked it up later on. It wasn't official until 1954, when Dwight Eisenhower signed it into law as the first official Pledge of Allegiance. They weren't really quite official. What can you tell us about how adding under God to the Pledge of Allegiance changed. Do you remember that era very well?
I I remember it, but I I don't know as I was what my opinion on that was at the time. You know, that's quite a while back.
Yeah, this is dating back. You know what I've noticed about those that lived through that era is that it was such a normal change. It just seems so natural that
Yeah, it was something that had to be done.
why is that?
I said it was something that had to be done. That change in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Why do you feel it had to be done?
Well, it did refer to God previous to that, and now with this and the pledge, it was like it's under God and pledged allegiance.
You know, Dwight Eisenhower added under God to the Pledge of Allegiance, and in 1956 he added "In God We Trust" to our currency. And he said it this way, that whether in times of war or in times of peace, our greatest resource is our trust in God. And
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln in 1863 said, "This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom." I see these, and the thing about it is he didn't expect to write that. That wasn't in his original speech. Under God, there are two speeches that have it in there, and there are two speeches that don't. And so there were well, two records that do and two records that don't. So essentially, he just knew that that's what needed to be said, and he needed to declare in that moment for his generation that that generation would be a generation under God. I feel that we're in very similar times, and this is honestly a big reason why I see that your mission to preserve what we do with our nation's flag and what happened in that time. I think these are very connected. I think that they're profoundly connected, and they have deep they have deep changes. They may seem normal at the time. They may seem average. They may seem very simple. As simple as you've explained. You know, we don't have that many flags on the street. Why don't we put a couple out, and then it becomes 70, and then it becomes 100, and then it becomes every time. But quite frankly, those things need to be managed and maintained, and those small moments of divine courage and faith become things that we need to protect over time, and we need to preserve and promote. What does the American flag, with all of the work that you've been doing with putting flags, I mean, it's a very simple thing. It's not like you make them. A very simple thing. What does the American flag mean to you personally?
It's very simple: pride and honor.
Those are very simple, very profound,
Yep,
very profound.
pride and honor. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I've always respected the American flag.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are approaching and when we're in it, on July 3rd of this year of 2025, President Trump started the America 250 celebration. So, opposite of the state of war, we are currently in a state of celebration. And so, our 250th semi-quincentennial, or what is now the super centennial, has already started. So, in this state of celebration, we are where we get to do a lot of different things. You lived through the bicentennial. You lived through Gerald Ford and Richard Nixon, and then immediately Gerald Ford, beginning the 2FIC ceremony in the bicentennial in 1976. Here we are at the 250th anniversary. We're kind of in the middle of it. A lot of the country is kind of waiting till January to start that, but we're really we already started, guys. We started 6 months ago. But what message do you have? Do you hope? Oh, let me put it this way: what message do you hope the flag communicates to future generations?
Oh, that they honor and respect it as much as I do. That that they that it's not something to take for granted, because we wouldn't have the way of life that we do now without having that flag to respect. You know, that goes clear back to George Washington, and that's a long time, and that flag has been there, and it always should be there, and it should always be respected. You know, right across from your father's house here, there's a woman that displays it upside down, and that just irritates me to no end.
Yep. Well, Chuck, I want to I want to thank you for coming on our podcast today. I know we've had a little tricky difficulties today, but I want to thank you for coming on our podcast. It's really truly an honor to sit down with somebody who's been through so many eras and generations and has sought to continually persevere to preserve the meaning of our nation's wonderful flag, and who has served in honorably. And I want to thank you for doing that. I hope that our future generations can always remember Chuck Steele as somebody who sought to preserve our nation's, the meaning of our nation. So with that, Chuck, is there anything else you'd like to leave with us today? Would you like to share a message for the younger Americans going into the next 250th?
You know, just honor and respect our flag, and if the need be arise, protect our country.
Yes, sir. Well, Chuck, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. It's been a joy and a treat, and I'm sure there's so much more to chat and to talk about. But it's been a joy chatting with you today. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you for coming. You have a great day, okay?
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.